Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the state of New Mexico and in which direction it is trending and what I think is going to happen in the state for the future. So, no, this is not going to become a series because usually what I see happening with series is like, I'll have 3 or 4 videos in mind that I think are super cool and I'll be happy to do them, and then I'll kind of, run out, and I don't want to do that again because, I've seen it happen before with the redistricting series, which I enjoy covering redistricting. I think it's super important. I think it, I think redistricting is super cool. I'm going to cover more on this channel, just not in the series format, or just kind of posting when I think it's necessary. Because I'm not going to make a post for every state. Because if a state as small as Montana or Maine kind of release their congressional map, I'm not going to. It's not enough for me to warrant me making a whole new video about it. If it's a state like Texas or California or Pennsylvania, then I've done that. But I think for states like this, which direction is state X trending? I can certainly do that, and I put out a poll both on Twitter and YouTube, and both of my audiences on both Twitter and YouTube, they wanted to see a topic or a video on New Mexico. The other option was Wisconsin, so I think that might not have been an interesting option, but it was the other state that I was considering doing. So I figured New Mexico, I think, seems to be of a little more interest to you guys, so we're going to talk about it. And I kind of expected that, and I'll tell you why. So Wisconsin's a state that has voted Democrat in, 5 out of the past 6 elections, voted Republican in 2016, as we know. But, New Mexico, just to tie this to trends, Wisconsin, I think, has always been at least since 2000, has been a competitive state. Gore won it by less than Biden. No, I think Gore won it by more. Kerry won it by less than Biden, or about the same. It was similar. I think it was under a point for both Kerry and Biden. Gore might have won it by 2 or 3. Obama won it by like 13, 2008, because he did super well essentially everywhere. 2012, Obama won it by I think 7%. 2016, as we know, Trump came, stunned the nation, won Wisconsin. And then in 2020, Joe Biden did win Wisconsin by about 0.7%. Now, in 2024, it's always too early to make, until maybe 10 months out, it's not really appropriate to make predictions for a presidential election. But what I will say is that if I had to bet on which way Wisconsin's going to go in 2024, I definitely say the Republicans are favored. They're not definitely favored, but I definitely say they're favored, if that makes sense. And it's because I don't think Joe Biden or Kamala Harris are in really good positions right now for 2024. I think Biden's a more viable candidate in terms of electability for multiple reasons, which I've made many videos about. But at the same time, I think you kind of have to expect a sort of burnout in Wisconsin with the Democrats. Because, look, Joe Biden won Wisconsin. He did fine in a lot of regions, and he did enough to win it. So I'm not, he's not going to complain about it, I'm sure. But the way he won Wisconsin was not sustainable, and that's something for another time. But what's more important for this video, at least, is that we talk about New Mexico. And so Joe Biden, just for some overview, and I think we should talk about the history because that's important as well. So similar to Wisconsin, New Mexico has voted for the Democrat 5 out of the past 6 elections. In 2000, actually, New Mexico was really, really close. It gets kind of overshadowed by Florida, but it was decided by 300 votes. It was ridiculously close. Al Gore won it with only 48%. And, I would say at least that, kind of was not really recognized. Ralph Nader did quite well in some of these regions, as you can see. He racked up, up to 10, nearly 10% of the vote in a lot of these counties. He consistently was hitting, 3-4% as an average, which is really strong for a third-party candidate. So 2000 goes for Gore very, very narrowly. 2004 flips. Bush wins it by about a point, if I recall correctly. He won it by about 0.8%. And he did this by, as you can see on this, map, he did a lot better in rural Mexico in 2004 than he did in 2020. He also improved with Hispanics. He won, I think, the city of Las Cruces. As you can see here, he did do a lot better in these counties. And he actually flipped a few counties up here, especially suburbs. He did better in the suburbs than in 2000. In 2004, he did better in 2000. And Kerry just was not a great candidate for Hispanics. Famously, and I think every political junkie knows this stat, Bush won Hispanic, or Bush got 44% of the Hispanic vote in 2004, which is something that, has the Republican presidentially has not done, has not come close to. We talk about Trump's reforms with Hispanics in 2020, how well he did. He only got about 32% of the vote, which is under a third. So, George W. Bush, did quite well with New Mexicans, New Mexicans, but also Hispanics specifically. And in 2008, Obama comes back. He wins it by about 15%. No surprise that he did that well there. He actually won these two counties. I don't know the names of them, but he did win these two counties that I don't think have gone Democrat since Obama ran. So, Now, in 2012, wins it by, about 10%. I think after 2012, it kind of fell out of the swing state category because, look, if Obama won by 15, then 10, not really a swing state anymore. 2016, narrowed a little bit. It was an 8-point Clinton state. But, Gary Johnson, he was the governor of Mexico. He did quite well there. I don't really say that he spoiled anyone. I think Clinton would have still won it by 8 with or without Johnson. He kind of took, in most states, he kind of spoiled Trump, I think. But in New Mexico, there were a lot of Democrats who really respected Gary Johnson. As a result of that, I think he got a pretty solid amount of votes. As a result, like I said, as a result of that, I don't want to sound too redundant, but as a result of him being a good governor, he got more votes in Mexico than he did in any other state, or as a percentage at least. 2020, Biden wins it by 11, and New Mexico is a state that I did expect to narrow up a little bit relative to what most people were thinking. I think it was consensus that Biden was going to win New Mexico by 15. I know Lean Toss had it at 17 or 18. I'm not sure what they had it at, but that was the model I followed most before 2020. I'll say this. I think I did underestimate Biden a little in New Mexico. I said it was going to be single digits. He won it by 11, which I think, not because he did better with Hispanics than I thought, which, as we'll soon learn, a key demographic in New Mexico, but he just did so well in the suburbs of Albuquerque. Trump was just not in a position there, even though I think Biden hurt himself with the oil comment he made at the second debate. So, yeah. Now, just to look at 2020 New Mexico in a little more detail. So Biden won Santa Fe County by 54%, and then he won Bernalillo, right? If I can find Bernalillo. There it is. My bad. I totally forgot geography for a second. He won it by about 24.4%, which is a really good margin for a Democrat. In 2016, if I can take a look at New Mexico, Clinton won it by a lot less. She won it by 18. And, 18 is still a solid amount, but, when Bernalillo is the largest county in New Mexico, and as a Democrat, you really have to run it up there. You have to win it by 20 to win comfortably. 2018 was something like D plus 30, I think, because Martin Heinrich did so well in New Mexico in 2018. Also, Gary Johnson ran, and, that time he definitely spoiled the Republicans for sure. So, Democrats have been doing quite well in Bernalillo as of late. And also, they did really well in the special election earlier this year, back in June. Melanie Stansbury did really, really well. In her election, she outperformed both Joe Biden and Deb Haaland. It was a seat that was expected to vote by, for Democrats by 15%. She won it by 24%. So, she did quite well in Bernalillo because, Percy partially included that. So, Democrats have been seeing some good signs in northern New Mexico, especially with Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and the suburbs. In New Mexico suburbs are a little hard to talk about because they're kind of spread out, or, they're kind of, they'll be in one county and then they won't be in the next county and then they'll be in, it's hard to explain without me sounding like I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to refrain from talking about it if I'm completely honest here. But Biden did quite well in Sandoval. He did well in Santa Fe, as I mentioned. He also did quite well in San Miguel. I should know that. I take Spanish. But, so the bottom line should be that, Democrats should not panic about New Mexico by any means, but what I mean by that it's trending right is that they're not, I don't think Democrats are going to improve in New Mexico. In 2024, it'll be stagnant at best. They might do it a little better in 2024 depending on the candidate. What I mean is, they'll win by maybe 11, which will match the 2020 margin. But, New Mexico's not going to become, a D plus 20 state the way that, I think some people believe it's going to be. And I think, maybe in 20 years from now, it's maybe D plus 7. I'm not saying it's going to become a swing state or, become a competitive state or even toss-up, but what I am saying is that I think New Mexico is kind of a sleeper state in terms of what could happen. So the reason I think this is just mostly because of Hispanic voters. And so in 2020, the electorate in New Mexico was really, really weird. So white voters made up 52% of the electorate in New Mexico, but if you look at the demographics, white voters or white people make up only about 37% of New Mexico as a whole. So white turnout, first of all, and this is the case in a lot of states, white turnout is usually much higher than the share is much. White voters usually make up more of the electorate than they do the demographics, because minorities tend to turn out a little less for elections, and as a result of that, the white voters just have a bigger voting bloc. So in New Mexico, Hispanics are, I think in 5 years now they'll probably be a majority, if being completely honest, but they are the plurality right now. Latinos make up 49% of New Mexico's population. They've been at 48% of the electorate. White voters, I shouldn't say they, because it's just non-white voters, but white voters make up 37% of the population in New Mexico. They made up 52% of the electorate. So, that's probably going to continue. Maybe not. It's kind of a weird, funky number, because I think it's probably a little less, because exit polls are not always reliable. But white voters, I think, are for the near future going to likely continue to overperform in terms of turnout, and that's just the way politics is right now, unfortunately. It's kind of tied to voter suppression in some states. It's not really New Mexico, though. It's probably more tied to propensity issues, in that white voters are more likely to be educated and more likely to turn out for elections because of that. But what I will say is that I think it's more favorable. Like in 2004, I bet there was more of a gap. I can't find data on that. I checked, believe me, but likely more of a gap in 2004 than there was in 2020. And it's continued to get a little better, but still not great. Now, just to take a look at these shifts, and shifts do not equal trends, but I think they can equal trends. Like in Texas, South Texas, Rio Grande Valley, you see these massive red arrows, especially in Zapata County, Kennedy County. Zapata was big too. If I can find Zapata, it was somewhere over here. Zapata, 38% more Republican went from a Clinton plus like 50 county to Trump plus 5. So maybe Clinton plus 40, 30 to Trump plus 5. Miami-Dade, as we know, infamously shifted 22% to the right. And in New Mexico, there were some shifts. In Chavez County, it shifted a little bit to the right, but in Sierra, we saw some kind of some weird trends in New Mexico, in that Democrats did better in some more Hispanic counties, and Republicans did better in some others. Like Hidalgo was a big one that shifted to the left. If I can find Doña Ana, which is the biggest county in New Mexico, shifted about a half point towards the Democrats. It's mostly just because Las Cruces is there, and because it's an urban area, and Democrats did a little better there. But at the end of the day, I don't really think that it means anything, because Hispanics in the county still shifted to the right, based on the precinct data I'm looking at. It's in I'll be honest, I don't know that for sure, but the majority of Hispanic precincts in this county did shift more to the right in 2020 than the urban precincts. So yeah. Now the reason it's Hispanics are not the same. Not all Hispanics vote the same. Hispanics in Texas are going to vote a very different way from Hispanics in California. And, we know that. California Hispanics trended actually Democrat in 2020, whereas Texas Hispanics did not. New Mexico's Hispanics, you can't find data on that because there's no exit polling on them. In 2016, Clinton won Latinos by about 21%, and I'm guessing Biden won it by probably a little less. If I had to guess, probably 17 or 18, if you drive my feet to the fire, but I really don't know. And the reason that I think Biden did worse is because he did worse with Hispanics. So generally speaking, rural Hispanics shifted big to the right in 2020. Urban and suburban Hispanics kind of stayed the same. But rural Hispanics, like in Texas, these are rural Hispanic regions. Florida, too, although those are more Cuban specifically. But in Texas specifically, which is a lot closer to New Mexico than Florida, rural Hispanics shifted to the right. And in New Mexico, we didn't really see that. But I think we're going to start to see that because, Hispanics right now do not, relative to what they've been in the past, do not really seem to be appealing, or Joe Biden doesn't really seem to appeal to them for whatever reason. His approval's at a low point right now. That's absolutely for sure. But at the same time, Democrats have been seeing worrying trends for Hispanics for years, literally since 2016, and they're only starting to pay attention to it now because they did so badly with Hispanics in 2020. So I think New Mexico are going to start to see these shifts start to materialize. And when you talk about analogies, I'll give you one here. New Mexico might just be 4 years behind everyone else. Texas and Florida have already maybe seen that shift, and I think it'll continue, but maybe not. For example, in Zapata, I don't think we're going to see another 40% shift to the right because it's just not plausible. It'll probably stay red. If I had to guess, it's probably going to stay red, but I don't think we're going to see a 40% shift towards the Republican Party. Same with Florida. Miami-Dade might even go Republican 2024. Not going to see another 22-point shift. I can guarantee you that. Now, New Mexico, I don't know yet because we're still 2.5 years away. We're still gonna have to do, see a lot more stuff. What I will say is that, if I'm a Democrat, I'm worried about the rural regions of New Mexico, especially those the majority Hispanic, because it's, unless something interesting happens where, for whatever reason, New Mexico Hispanics seem to be countering the trends everywhere else, it does look like they're going to start to trend right. And whether that's because the Democrats are bad at appealing to minorities and have been losing ground with them for the past 7 or 8 years, or it's because the Republicans start to improve and start to gain with minorities. I think it could be a mix of both. Could be some other things too. We'll have to see. I just think that the New Mexico demographics are just the state's getting more diverse, which on paper looks good for Democrats. But I think when you go a little bit deeper and see because look, I think it's really ignorant. I'll say that I think it's ignorant to assume that if you're Latino you're a Democrat, because that's a stereotype. If you're white, you're Republican. If you're Latino, it's kind of I'm totally blanking on the term, that dynamic. But I don't really think that's how we should be viewing politics, because like I said, urban Hispanics are going to vote very differently from rural Hispanics. Hispanics who've gone to college are going to vote very differently from Hispanics who've not gone to college. So, urban Hispanics in Santa Fe or Albuquerque or even Las Cruces, which I've talked about multiple times throughout this video, might stay Democrat, and they might continue to even shift towards the Democrats. But we're talking about Hispanics as a whole in New Mexico, and I think that there are some positive trends for the GOP in the state. And I think as a result of that, you can make a very, very, very convincing argument that the GOP is gaining in New Mexico. Again, I don't think they're going to win it anytime soon. I don't think they're going to win it even the next 20 years. But that being said, I do think that there are some positive trends for them. And, if we start to see 20, 30-point swings like we did in South Texas, New Mexico could be really interesting to watch. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next one.